He's an incompetent driver who dropped out of high school. Just ignore him." "What?" At Emma's words, John frowned. "Understood. Please consider all dealings with your company canceled." "What?" Emma was dumbfounded by John's firm declaration. "Please leave. We'll get back to you regarding the termination of the contract." John was serious. He was really planning to cancel the contract with us. I was convinced of that. "Wait a minute." I stopped John, who was about to leave the reception room, and handed him my business card. "What, Ken? It's been a while." "I'm Ken." As I greeted, John exclaimed, "Wow," loudly, clearly excited. He looked at me with genuine happiness. "So, you're back," he said, tearing up. I couldn't help but feel emotional as well. Ignoring Emma, who was completely confused, I left the reception room with John. "My name is Ken, and I work for a company that manufactures auto parts. Our company has about 100 employees, with 3 branches in the US and 1 overseas. In fact, I was the one tasked with setting up the overseas branch. 15 years ago, I was assigned to a business trip to the overseas branch and have been working abroad ever since. Back then, I was 39, which was old enough to be promoted to a managerial position. While my peers were rapidly getting promoted, I remained a regular employee. That's because I had a huge complex about my education. I didn't go to high school. In other words, I'm a high school dropout. I'm the eldest of 4 siblings. When I was in 8th grade, my father left us for another woman. My mother wasn't very strong and would get sick if she worked full-time. But she was the kindest person and always put us kids first. In such a family, it was inevitable that I would start working instead of going to high school. At that time, there were quite a few jobs available for high school dropouts. It was a period of economic growth when the number of workers and their willingness to work were more important than their educational background. I got a job on the production line at an auto factory. This factory feels like a subcontractor of a major car company, but the pay was good for the time, and the factory was close to my house, which was the deciding factor for taking the job. I vaguely remember there being a simple entrance exam, but I don't recall the details. I successfully got the job at the factory and worked there for about 13 years. I often worked night shifts, so it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I had the best pay in the factory. Then, after 13 years, I had a turning point. The company that was the parent company of the factory, my current company, reached out to me and asked if I would join them. Until then, I had been working tirelessly every day to put my younger brothers through college, and by then I was feeling somewhat burnt out. It was just when my youngest brother had graduated from college. For me, the transfer to the parent company gave me a new reason to work hard. So, at 28, I joined my current company, and at 39, I was assigned overseas. Living abroad was tough at first, with language barriers and cultural differences, but I quickly got used to it. I'm very grateful to my wife, Kate, who followed me to this unfamiliar place. The overseas assignment was decided when Kate and I were engaged. I'm sure she had her worries about moving to a developing country, but Kate willingly came with me. Moreover, 5 years after the assignment, Kate even gave birth there. She is truly strong for having experienced childbirth and raising children in an unfamiliar land. 2 years after our first child was born, we had our second child. Thus, we lived overseas as a family of 4 and eventually returned to the US altogether. When we came back to the US after 15 years, the faces in the company had changed. I was assigned to the headquarters, but most of the colleagues I was close to at that time had become managers at branch offices. The company was never one that someone who was high school dropout could join, so I had no peers. I was assigned to the accounting department. Honestly, the work is completely different from what I had been doing, so I was very confused. I had to learn the job from scratch, and I wondered why I had to do accounting at this point in my career. The only thing I was thankful for was that my former subordinate, Mark Thompson, was in the accounting department. On my first day back from overseas, Mark greeted me with great enthusiasm. I never thought you would join our department, Ken. I'm so happy to work with you again. Mark's excitement eased my nerves. I was worried about how things would go in a completely unfamiliar department. I'm happy to work with you again too, Mark. I never thought you'd be a section chief. It's just seniority, pure luck. Mark says this, but I know that his promotion is well-deserved. Even back when we used to work together, I thought Mark always acted with foresight, and his sales performance was consistently among the top. As his senior, there were many times when I thought Mark might surpass me. It's only fitting that he is now a manager. So, the director is on a business trip, right? And there's a new female employee who was hired mid-career. I probably missed her since I came back, so I haven't met her yet. I heard that the accounting director, Emma, is 48 years old, 6 years younger than me. She joined the company right after I went on an overseas assignment, so we've never met. But to be promoted to director at such a young age, she must be quite exceptional. Oh yeah, I guess you could say it's a business trip, Mark answered evasively, causing me to tilt my head slightly in confusion. Why is he being so vague? Is it not a business trip? Business trip, yes, but I'll explain more later, Mark said quietly. There seems to be some situation regarding Emma. Though I'm curious, I need to focus on my own work for now. Thinking this, I returned to my desk. It has been 3 days since I was assigned to the accounting department, and I was just starting to understand the daily tasks. Emma, who had been on a business trip, finally came in. Emma walked in wearing an expensive-looking suit, with bright red lipstick and long black hair flowing down to her waist. She looked every bit the competent career woman. I'm Ken, newly assigned here, I greeted. Emma snorted. Oh, you're the one. You're the idiot who joined after dropping out of high school and was too incompetent, so they sent you overseas? It's the worst that such deadweight is joining our department. I couldn't believe what I was hearing from her upon our first meeting. It was definitely not the right thing to say. Moreover, my overseas assignment wasn't a demotion. Emma, with all due respect, Kevin wasn't sent overseas because he was incompetent or stupid. Mark interjected strongly, cutting me off. Seeing Mark's face turn red made me a bit happy. I know from long ago that Mark's face turns red when he's really angry. Emma, you know about this, right? What Ken was doing overseas. What? How should I know that? Why would I need to keep track of what an ordinary employee is doing? I thought she was the perfect example of someone with a condescending attitude. She must have a lot of pride in thinking she's the best. Well, wasn't he assigned to that developing country? What other reason could there be for sending someone to a dusty, poor country like that other than a demotion? It's true that I was assigned to a developing country, and in the rural areas, people lived in houses that looked ready to collapse, covered in dust. But I lived in the capital city, which wasn't much different from a regional city in the US. There were convenience stores and even an international school. I did notice a gap between the rich and poor though. But they say home is where the heart is, and my family and I were saved many times by the kindness and friendliness of the people there. The country isn't as bad as you think, Emma. The food is great, and there were lots of tourists from the US. Above all, the people are very nice. That just sounds like the whining of a loser. It even smells like a sewer. That country has a dirty image. Everyone there clearly thought she had gone too far. Mark looked like he was about to jump on Emma. Emma, you should visit that country. If you go there, you'll see it's actually a great place. Emma looked surprised, maybe expecting a more heated response from me. Mark was looking at me with pleading eyes, as if to say, stand up to her more, but I had no intention of saying anything else. She definitely went too far, and she didn't need to say all that. However, I didn't feel angry. Of course, I didn't think she meant no harm, but everyone has their own values. Let people say what they want to say. So you were overseas for 15 years, and I thought you'd be something, but you're just a coward. I get it. Just try not to drag us down, okay? I'm the boss in this department, and what I say goes. I appreciate any guidance you can provide. As I said this, Emma clicked her tongue and walked away. The next day, Emma called me and said I would be accompanying her to a business meeting. You seem to know nothing about accounting, so I'll teach you personally. We have business meetings too, you know? The last time you did one was 15 years ago, right? You must have forgotten, so I'll show you how it's done. Honestly, at my age, there's not much to learn about business meetings, but she seemed eager to show off. Mark told me yesterday that Emma loves to boast. Whether it's new nails, hair color, or accessories, she always shows them off. On the flip side, if you praise what she's boasting about, she'll be in a good mood. So it's easy, Mark said with a sigh. Unaware of what her subordinates think of her, Emma starts telling me about her past business meeting exploits. In response, I just said, I see, that's impressive. As expected, the client meeting I was taken to by Emma was at a car manufacturing plant that has been doing business with our company for years. It's one of our major clients that buys our parts in large quantities. They're going to make a new car engine, and they're planning to use our parts. We're here to discuss the pricing. I aim to secure a long-term contract. Well, since I'm here personally, the deal is as good as done. I wasn't sure where her confidence came from, but I replied, I see. If the deal was already decided, it shouldn't be a tough negotiation. As Emma and I waited in the meeting room, a man about my age walked in. John, thank you for your time. No, Emma coming here personally is quite an honor. We could have just met with our person who was usually in charge of. John's words made Emma smile with satisfaction. However, it was clear that he preferred not to have her here. John might find Emma a bit annoying. Since this is a negotiation, it won't start without me. Who is this? John, with a strained smile, tried to change the subject and looked at me. As I greeted and tried to hand over my business card, Emma stopped me, saying, Oh, you don't need to worry about him. He's just a useless driver who dropped out of high school. Ignore him. What? John frowned at Emma's words. What do you mean? I mean, he dropped out of high school, and he's an incompetent employee who joined us mid-career. He was exiled overseas for 15 years, and now he's back, causing us trouble. It would have been better if he'd stayed abroad. I believe John's question, what do you mean, was directed at Emma's terrible statement, but she kept talking nonsense. As John listened, his expression grew harsher, but Emma didn't notice. Emma, are you serious? Serious? I don't like to joke, so I always speak my mind. Hearing her response, John sighed deeply. Understood. We will cancel all deals with your company. What? Emma was stunned by John's definitive statement. Are you joking? I don't like to joke either, so I always speak my mind. I don't want to do business with someone who treats their subordinates like that. John's eyes were definitely not smiling at all. He had a look of utter contempt on his face. Wait, I was just stating the facts. He really only graduated middle school and was transferred overseas. Is education that important to you? If that's the case, I only graduated high school, and my brother didn't even finish high school. Back then, it wasn't uncommon to start working after middle school. It wasn't as much of an education-focused society as it is now, and if you didn't have the money, you couldn't go to college. There are plenty of talented people who didn't go to high school or college. When Emma found out that John's brother didn't even finish high school, she turned pale. Having the contract voided would be a significant problem for our company. That's how important our dealings with John's company are. Please leave. We'll contact you later about the termination of our deal. No way. Without even looking at the stunned Emma, John started gathering his documents. John was serious. He was really going to cancel our contract. Seeing Emma ask John, "Why are you so mad?" with a clueless expression, gave me a headache. How could she not understand the situation at this point? Before talking about educational backgrounds, she should consider improving her comprehension skills. It seemed John was thinking the same, as he looked exasperated at Emma's question. Talking with you is getting us nowhere. Whatever it is, the parts we asked your company to make can be made elsewhere, and we'll go to another company. Wait. I stopped John as he was about to leave the meeting room. Since I had been silent until now, Emma shouted in a panic, "You stay quiet." Ignoring Emma, I handed John my business card. It was a brand new card that had just arrived this morning. John took the card with a puzzled look and widened his eyes when he saw the name on it. "Ken? What?" "It's been a while. I'm Ken." When I introduced myself, John shouted excitedly, "Ken, it's been a long time. You look well." "Yes, thanks to you." "I'm glad to see you're doing well too, John." "I'm surprised to see you're now a director." "You're the impressive one," John said, patting my shoulder enthusiastically. He looked at me with genuine happiness and, tearing up, said, "So, you've come back." Seeing John get teary-eyed made me emotional too. Emma, still not comprehending, stood there dumbfounded, mumbling, well, but we ignored her. John and I both have a ton of things we want to talk about. "So, what's the relationship between you two? You're still here? Just leave already." "I want to talk to Ken." John responded to Emma's words eagerly. The sudden shift from the tone he used with me to his cold response made Emma almost tear up. About the contract being cancelled. If Ken takes charge of our account, I'll sign any contract. But the condition is that you are banned from our company. I don't even want to see your face. Just leave already." But, ignoring Emma, who looked perplexed, John happily said to me, "Tell me about your assignment. You haven't had lunch yet, right? Let's go eat." "What's going on?" Leaving Emma, who had no idea what was going on, I left the conference room with John. On the day I reunited with John, he treated me to a fancy restaurant for lunch. I talked about my assignment, but there wasn't enough time to discuss everything during lunch, so we decided to go for drinks soon. John, looking excited, said, "There are so many things I want to talk about." After parting ways, I returned to the office. When I got back, Mark approached me with a worried look. "Did something happen with Emma? She came back really depressed and left early." "Well, it's convenient for me though," Mark said with a grin, and I responded with a wry smile. "Something happened during the business meeting." "Well, it's probably good for her to be a bit down." "Yeah," Mark nodded in agreement. To be honest, Emma's comments during the meeting were over the top. Anyone would have been upset, not just John. Things might be a bit awkward with Emma from tomorrow. Thinking about this, I got back to work. However, the next day, Emma didn't show up at the office and didn't contact anyone, so it was considered an unauthorized absence. I wondered if she had an accident or was in a situation where she couldn't reach out. But in the end, Emma didn't come to work that day. It wasn't until 2 days later that Emma showed up. No one had been able to contact her, but she came to work as if nothing had happened and didn't apologize at all, leaving me stunned. I didn't mind her not saying anything to me, but shouldn't she say something to Mark, who had done all her work? "Emma, can I talk to you for a moment?" Mark spoke to Emma, and everyone in the office was watching him closely, curious about what he might say. "What? Got something to complain about?" "No, nothing from me. My work doesn't change whether Emma is here or not. The president wants to see you when you come in." Emma sighed irritably and muttered, "Ugh, what a hassle." It was seriously questionable how she could act like this in the current situation. Being called to the president's office probably meant she was going to get scolded for something, likely her unauthorized absences. Emma clicked her tongue, glared at me, and spat out, "It's all your fault," before storming out of the office. About an hour after Emma went to the president's office, I got an internal call. "Ken, can you come to the president's office for a bit?" It was the president. Behind his tired voice, I could hear someone shouting. Realizing it was Emma, I felt a wave of dread. "Understood. I'll be right there. Sorry about this." Mark, who heard my response, asked worriedly, "You're going to the president's office?" "Yeah, I heard Emma shouting, and it seems the president's having trouble." "I'll be back soon." "I'm coming with you," Mark insisted, clearly concerned about me. Seeing no reason to refuse, I headed to the president's office with him. Even before entering the president's office, we could hear Emma's hysterical shouting. Mark and I exchanged looks. Inside, the president looked utterly exhausted, slumped in his chair, while Emma continued to scream at him, creating a chaotic scene. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Mark, you came too. Please, do something about her." "My head's killing me," the president pleaded. "What do you mean, do something about her? I'm the girlfriend of the next president," Emma shrieked. Hearing her words, Mark looked at me in shock. "That can't be true," I said, exasperated. "Right?" Mark nodded with a wry smile. "She's been saying nonsensical things non-stop. I can't even have a normal conversation with her. Even my dog makes more sense." The president sighed deeply, clearly at his wits' end. "Look, I'm the girlfriend of the next president. How can you fire me?" "Who do you mean by the next president?" "Because I'm the next president of this company." "What?" Emma, who was shouting, instantly went silent at my words. She blinked in confusion and asked, "What are you talking about?" As I said, "I'm the next president of this company. The current president will retire in 5 years, and I came back to take over." "Don't be ridiculous. The next president is the vice president. Everyone in the company knows that our vice president is famous for being incompetent. He got his position through family connections and does nothing because he can't do anything. This is well known in our company. I'm pretty sure the vice president has a wife and kids. So what does Emma mean by being his girlfriend? There's no way we'd make someone so incompetent the president, but the vice president has a college degree. This guy is a high school dropout. It's crazy to make him the next president," Emma pleaded desperately. The president sighed in exasperation. "The vice president only got into a third-rate college because his family is wealthy. Spending 4 years playing around means nothing. Someone like John, who started working here right after middle school and worked hard for his family, is way more respectable." Mark nodded in agreement. "Even so, a college degree is better than a high school dropout. You probably don't know this, but our entrance exam is really tough. It's not just about academic knowledge, it tests logical thinking and problem-solving skills. The vice president didn't even come close to passing. We only hired him because of his connections." The president looked like he was chewing on bitter feelings, clearly regretting his past decision. I'd heard rumors about Ken. There was a hardworking, highly capable guy at the factory. With the factory manager's recommendation, we decided to bring him over. Ken aced the entrance exam. Back then, I was working 12 hours a day with only 2 days off a month. I needed the money desperately to support my younger siblings through college, so I begged for the extra hours. Apparently, this caught the factory manager's eye. Even after joining the company, Ken continued to work diligently. When we decided to open a branch overseas, I knew I wanted Ken to lead it. I knew he had just gotten married, but I wanted him to handle this crucial task. John was the unshakable ace of the sales department back then. Even as someone who was always second to him, I knew he was outstanding. The overseas assignment was a significant responsibility, carrying the company's high expectations. Failure was not an option. Everyone knew that the success of the new branch would greatly influence the future of the company. Setting up overseas was no easy task. I faced severe mistreatment from the locals, got stones thrown at me daily, and they only spoke to me in their language, clearly showing their disdain. Even so, returning to the US was never an option. I wanted to live up to the expectations the whole company had placed on me. Plus, having Kate nearby to support me was a huge help. I was determined to make the launch a success. It's natural that the local people and I have different ways of thinking and values. After all, we've grown up in completely different cultures. Is that why you never get angry at Emma? Mark asked. I nodded in response to Mark's words. I heard a lot of harsh things, even at my assignment. But if I got angry at everything, I couldn't do my job. Ken shaped the branch in 5 years and worked there for another 10 years. Now, all the local employees work seriously and listen to what the American employees say. That's because Ken built a good relationship with them. Seeing Ken, I thought he was the only one to be the next president. I was surprised when I heard about becoming the next president. It was true, I was surprised, but at the same time, I was definitely honored. I felt like my hard work had been recognized. Ken has many fans not only inside the company, but also outside. From a high school dropout to president, it sounds like a drama, doesn't it? John is one of your fans too, right? He was a client when I was in sales. He treated me very well from back then. Even when my overseas assignment was decided, he was worried but supported me. The president nodded while listening. So, it's really taboo to speak ill of Ken in front of John. John still seems to be angry, and this morning he called saying that Emma should be fired. Why am I getting fired? I see, this is why Emma was called to the president's office. Now I finally understood. Although it's unlikely that Emma would be fired just because of John's words, there have been recent unapproved absences and an affair with the vice president. John's company is one of our major clients, and we've been indebted to them for a long time. It seems you said some pretty harsh things in front of John. I just stated the facts, Emma retorted, but her voice trailed off. She must have realized that her position was getting worse. I heard you weren't doing much of your job as a director either. It seems Mark was doing it for you. The president sighed as he spoke. I also learned in the past few days that Emma made too many mistakes in her approvals, so her subordinates had Mark check things before getting Emma's approval. In other words, Emma was just a figurehead director. Your punishment will be decided in the board meeting. You've been doing whatever you want until now, so be prepared for a fitting punishment. Please wait. I've been working hard, Emma said tearfully, but I wanted to ask what exactly she had been working hard at. Emma hasn't been doing much work lately, and she's been having an affair with the vice president. It turns out that her recent business trip was just a cover for a romantic getaway with him. There will be consequences for this too, which will be decided soon. From my perspective, Emma doesn't seem very competent at her job. Honestly, if both the vice president and Emma are college graduates, then it makes me question the value of a college degree. Mark chuckled at my comment. Emma turned bright red and fell silent, unable to respond. Well, that's the end of the discussion. Ken, Mark, sorry for calling you in. You can go back to work. Emma, you don't need to come to the office until a decision about your disciplinary action is made, the president stated firmly. Emma looked devastated. Ignoring Emma, Mark and I left the CO's office. Later, it was decided that Emma would be dismissed. Her severe remarks to employees, frequent absences without notice, her behavior during business negotiations, and her affair with the vice president were the deciding factors. Emma claimed she was the vice president's true love, but he dismissed it as a fling. The vice president's wife, who decided not to divorce him over the affair, demanded a large compensation from Emma. The vice president's wife, who is also a public figure, found that Emma had written nasty comments on her social media. After tracing the comments back to Emma, she decided to demand further compensation. Emma, who lost everything and now faces huge debts, couldn't pay her rent and was evicted from her apartment. She's now living almost like a homeless person. Meanwhile, Kate and the kids have adjusted well to life in the US. I was a bit worried since the kids had never lived here before, but they quickly became popular at school, having experienced more than their peers. As for me, I'm working hard every day in the accounting department. Originally, I moved to this department to learn about the company's finances before taking over as president. So, I'm performing the duties of a department head every day with Mark. Ken, you catch on to work so quickly. At this rate, you'll be moving on to president duties by next month, won't you? This has been Mark's favorite phrase recently. He tells me every day that he wishes I could stay in the accounting department longer. I don't think it'll be next month. But isn't my presence here making it harder for you to do your job, Mark? Not at all. Ken, you're admired by the employees more than you realize. You worked in a factory after middle school, put all your siblings through college, and now you're set to be the next president. It's incredibly impressive. I've noticed a big change in how the employees look at me since I returned from my overseas assignment. Many were skeptical about my ability to manage the overseas branch. But now it's highly profitable, and there are even plans to open a new branch. Employee bonuses have significantly increased, and the president openly credits me for it, so everyone looks at me with envy. By the way, it seems John's company is looking to expand our business relationship, right? Yeah, John mentioned it directly when we went out for drinks the other day. It's a great opportunity. I was surprised to learn that John is set to be the next president of his company. Right now, it's no exaggeration to say he holds the real power there. John likes me a lot and wants to keep growing our business together. The president keeps giving me new goals to strive for, even when I feel lost. In 5 years, I'll become the president of this company. I'm determined to protect all the employees with my life.